Hey guys, so here's some very typical Japan behavior for you. They've allowed Uber into Japan, but under very strict regulations that they've connected to the taxi industry. So if you want to be an Uber driver, you have to be employed by a taxi company, right? And then there's all these rules about you can use your own car as an Uber, but you have to be employed by a taxi company for a certain number of hours a week that's very strictly regulated. And then you're only allowed to use your own personal car for Uber in places or at times where taxis are not available. So anywhere where there are taxis available, you're not allowed to do the Uber thing in your own car, and you've got to be a taxi company employee, right? Which sort of defeats the whole purpose of the Uber thing in the first place, doesn't it? It just becomes basically another way to order a taxi. Instead of calling the taxi company, you're booking through Uber, and then a taxi turns up. So it's very typical of Japan. They can't be flexible on their rules and regulations, so they just have to, anything new like that, they have to incorporate it into their existing rules and regulations. So you just become a taxi driver, basically employed by a taxi company on their wages. So they've done a similar thing with Airbnb. So if you want to open up a room or part of your house or an apartment or something to Airbnb in Japan, you can, but whatever place it is has to be registered at City Hall as a as a rental place or as a guest house. So they have again existing rules and regulations for such things that they would have used for ryokan and things like that. And if you want to put your place on Airbnb, you have to go through the same process. So loads of paperwork, loads of red tape, and loads of rules and regulations. So you can see it's the Japan thing. They don't adjust to new things, as we've talked about before. They just, anything new that comes along like this, they go, where can we incorporate this into existing rules and regulations? And they just slip it in there. So Uber in Japan is just basically part of the taxi service now, and Airbnb is just basically another rental accommodation, which from what we've heard seems to be, the result seems to be about the same prices as you pay for normal guest houses or ryokans. So very typical Japanese response to something new. Anyway, Uber and Airbnb in Japan. That's that. More videos coming soon.